Do you need to study English, or do you have to study English? I'm Teacher Mike, and today we're learning the differences between should, have to, need to, and must when talking about things that are important or necessary. And we're going to start with the word should, because should doesn't actually tell us whether something is important or necessary. It really just tells us that you think something is a good idea. For example, you should tell him how you feel. That means that you think telling him how you feel is a better option than not telling him how you feel. Or we should have pizza for lunch. Again, this does not mean that having pizza for lunch is important or necessary. It just means that you think it's a good idea. And when we use should in a negative sentence, it basically just means that you think something is a bad idea. For example, you shouldn't smoke cigarettes. You can smoke if you want to, but I think it's a bad idea. Have to basically means that something is necessary, and it's necessary because you don't have another option. Because of this, it's often used for rules and situations where something bad might happen if you don't do something. For example, I have to go to bed soon. That means that if I don't go to bed soon, I will be in a situation that I do not want to be in. So if a child or teenager says, I have to go to bed soon, that might mean something like, if I don't go to bed soon, my parents are going to be angry. But if an adult says, I have to go to bed soon, that might mean something like, if I don't go to bed soon, I'm going to be really tired at work tomorrow. When we use have to in a negative sentence, it means that something is not necessary. Basically, we do have an option. And it's really important to understand that don't have to doesn't mean that someone can't or shouldn't do something. It really just means that nothing bad will happen if they don't do it. For example, I don't have to get up early tomorrow. That means that I can get up early if I want to, but if I don't want to, that's fine too. Need to also means that something is necessary. However, need to often sounds more like it's necessary because we have a goal. For example, if you want to improve your speaking, you need to practice speaking. Or a security guard might say, I need to check your ID. In that situation, they don't want to check your ID, but their goal is to keep the building safe, and checking your ID is how they do that. So while have to focuses on something that we don't want to happen, need to tends to focus on something that we do want to happen. And although there are situations where this difference is important, in most everyday conversations it usually doesn't matter which one you use. In negative sentences, they are also very similar. For example, if someone says, you don't have to bring food, that basically means no food, no problem. And if someone says you don't need to bring food, that also basically means no food, no problem. The difference is just that you don't have to bring food sounds more like there is no rule that says that you have to bring food. So if you can't or don't want to bring food, that's fine. You don't need to bring food sounds more like there might be a specific reason why it's not important for you to bring food. For example, maybe they already have a lot of food. And finally, we have must, which is a word that I personally don't use very often because it sounds a bit dramatic and it also sounds quite formal. And there are two main ways that we use must. The first way we use must is when something is very important to you personally for some reason. It's very similar to need to and have to, but we use it to show that we feel very strongly about something. For example, if someone says, I must do this, that basically means I have to do this because it is important to me personally, or maybe I will feel very bad about myself if I don't do it. And it could also be a less serious situation. For example, if you're at a party and you really like the cake, you might say to your friend, "You must try the cake." That's like saying, "I think the cake is delicious and I want you to have the same wonderful experience that I just had." And the second way we use must is for rules. For example, you might see a sign that says visitors must show ID. And although must can be very similar to have to and need to in positive sentences, it is not similar in negative sentences. Again, don't have to and don't need to both basically mean you can if you want to, but if you don't want to, that's fine too. But must not basically means don't. For example, you must not tell anyone about this. That basically means don't tell anyone about this, or you're not allowed to tell anyone about this. And now, to make sure that you can remember all of this, let's do a very quick review of just the main points. Should means something is a good idea. Have to means something is necessary because you don't have another option. Need to means something is necessary to achieve a goal. Must is similar to have to and need to, but we use it when something is important to us personally. And we also sometimes use it when talking about rules. Should not means you think something is a bad idea. Don't have to and don't need to both mean that something is not necessary. And again, there is a small difference between them, but in most situations it really doesn't matter which one you use. And must not means that something is not allowed or would be very bad. And now I would like you to go to the comments and answer the original question. Do you need to study English, or do you have to study English? And remember, for some of you, the answer is going to be have to. And for some of you, the answer is going to be need to. It just depends on why you feel that studying English is necessary. So make sure to write not only which one you think is true for you, but also why you chose that one. Also, if you found this video useful and would like more videos like this one, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel.